topics. And the first thing I want to tackle tonight is defunding police. Now, I've seen some interviews about this. I've heard them talking about it, and I'm a bit torn on it. I'm trying to figure out, and it's not that I don't want to support it. I want to support it if it's a good thing, but I want to know what particularly does defunding the police, how does that help our cause? Does that mean taking more police off the street? And if that's the case, what are we gonna do when we call 911? There's nobody that comes to help when somebody's robbing us or kicking our butts or what have you. What does defunding the police mean, and what's the purpose of that? Let's start with our new face we have over here. Mr. Harold, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. How about you, Lamar?
Pretty good, pretty good. What are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Well, I'm like you. I just want to know what the definition of what they're talking about is defunding the police, first of all, because if we're talking about abolishing a police department, who's going to protect the little ladies that need the police? You know, I mean, then do we call it a National Guard? Does the town become under martial law? You know, I mean, what is defunding? If it's instead of defunding, what I would say would be pretty reasonable is to start cleaning out the top of the police command. You start implementing some strong policies and legislation about protecting the whistleblowing police officers, because you need those whistleblowing police officers that are going to report what these bullying police officers, abusive police officers are doing. Because those bullying and abusive police officers, those guys got reputations on the police department. And they're feared and they're respected by the administration, supervisors, and their peers.
Yeah.
You know, that's you know, I mean, I'm concerned with if we could implement some policies that protect these officers, that once they have reported or blown the whistle on some of these bad cops, then these reporting officers start having these problems. We start identifying the date when they reported them.
Yeah.
And then we work on saving their careers instead of having their careers being becoming disastrous, and they're unable to be employed as a police officer anywhere else.
Let me get to one of these comments here. We have comments coming in live here. Tam Watt says defunding the police is shorthand for a divest and invest model, divesting money from local and state police budgets and reinvesting into the communities, mental health services and social service programs. Ricky, what's your take on this whole defunding?
So,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Were you calling me, Lamar?
Yeah, Ricky, what are your thoughts on?
You know, I think that, you know, if we get a clear definition of what defunding is, I think that's a good idea. Also, you know, there also can be implemented plans from the top, from our government system, to fund all those programs that, you know, we don't really have to necessarily take from the police department. You know, we can really get those things funded through our government, which they're lacking a lot on. But what I would say is we need more training for police officers, longer training. I think that's important. I think a lot of people saw the meme that was going around that you have to have more training hours as a barber than to be a police officer, which is crazy.
Okay. Let me ask you this here. So it's 1,600 hours to be a barber, right? I know that it is in the state of Texas. So let's say the Dallas Police Academy, I think it's 9 months. 8-9 months. That's quite a bit. And here's the thing. Yeah, the training is good, but once you train them in the academy, that's the schoolhouse. Then you get them out on the street. Then you have a cop say, everything you learned in that academy, just forget about that. I'm going to teach you how to do this on the streets. You understand?
And that's why I
That's the
think we
problem.
should have continuously training, especially like
And
diversity training. They need to have
absolutely.
so many training hours per year. It's 50 to 60 training hours per year on dealing with people with mental health issues, dealing with diversity issues.
Yeah.
I think that's very important. I
Roger
don't
that.
think I don't think that there's enough being done because when you put certain officers in certain communities that don't know that community, the biases already start to creep in. But if you start
Roger
having
that.
these trainings every year, so many training hours a year that they have to go, it helps with refreshing. And, I work at a job, my wife work at a job, and training is important. When we get those training, it refreshes our mind. We get back into the mode of trying to do things correctly. I think that's
Right.
very important. I don't. You don't necessarily have to defund those programs, but I think bringing in more training, bringing in things that help them do things correctly, I think will be better. And also trying to assign police officers to their communities will
Right.
help a lot. If you assign a lot of black officers to those communities that they grew up in, I think that's important.
Okay. Yeah, that's good too. But we need them white folks there too. Here's the thing. Don't you? Because
Well, I'm not saying
based upon my
I'm not
career,
saying all black officers need to be in
I
those
know. I
communities.
got you. I
Yeah.
got you.
Let's
I got you. I just
get
want to
Brendan,
emphasize that
Brendan
point.
Kennard in this real quick. Brendan Kennard, either
Yeah.
y'all got anything you want to add to the whole defunding?
You can go ahead, Brendan, first.
Yeah, okay. So I will say this to Mr. Harrell's point. You're right. Any company that trains you in house is just a front, right? Because it never works like that. That's why I laugh at companies who put people on salary. When you put somebody on salary, that's a volunteer slavery, right? You're no longer married to your family. Shut the door. You're no longer married to your family. You're married to that job, right? Because 40 hours ain't 40 hours, and you really ain't flexing your time. They flexing their muscles on you, right? So that's the reality. So I do understand your point because that's any company, right? Because all they want to do is they want the bottom line, and when the auditors come in, they want to be able to show by paperwork that we got this done. That's it. So I agree with you when you make that statement. This is the problem. Humanity is the problem. That we value the dollar over the lives of people. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I don't. It doesn't matter to me uh, how much money I am suggested to make because what you I mean y'all have what free overtime. Y'all can get jobs outside of things. Man, if things are not right, so the system is broken because it's only a front. It's there to cover up. You blow the whistle, you're gonna lose your job.
Roger
So,
that.
so you know what I'm saying? That's the whole point. All this is a front that's being put up. And the problem is with us, man, is that we value that dollar over that integrity. And I think
Mm.
once we come to the place, man, where we no longer chasing that dollar and we become content in where we are, that's why I love the fact that I grew up with an 87-year-old grandfather because I learned that I don't have to have all the money in the world as long as I'm cool with what I got. And once I'm
Right.
cool with what I got, then I got 2 feet to stand on and not worried about this man gonna take my job from me or not because I'll say this I'll let Kennard go. The thing about it, I stood up to a man that was in a position higher than me. And I told him, man, I don't want your job. I said, because I get to go home at night. You got to stay here and do your work. So I don't want your job. But it took me, but see, when our debt to income ratio is off balance, like the scales of justice, right? Then we have to do whatever they ask, right? Because why? Because at the end of the day, we got to pay for all these card notes we got. That house you really can't afford. So
Absolutely.
it has a whole issue that all that folds out into the fact that